Okay, my name's Margaret Ann Windsor. I'm going to finish the second tape tonight, and I'm going to turn it off then for the night, I think. Um, I, Sometimes I feel I've done all I can do. Um, but then what else can I do? Anyway, this is number two. I'm going to tell about Victor Gonzalez's connection to the lobotomy and to Henry Kissinger. And then I worked this is the link that if out of anything else people don't want to try to put it together, because I did leave clues, there are uh, thousands of things. Everything I've said could be checked out. It really could. I haven't lied, and there's so much of it that can be checked out. There's no doubt. Somebody read some of my, more than one said this. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? It's in all of this if you cared to look. And if you cared to get out and protest like the blacks did here, like women's rights, which I've had none. This is the strange thing. None of them marched for me in all this. So anyway, where am I? Victor Gonzalez, well, he wasn't raping her, I guess, but then you're talking about, yeah, it probably is rape. This man, who was a mentor, he sent his daughter up there to work with Gonzalez. How would he know he wasn't a psychopath, though? That's what bothers me. The father, he was his teacher in school, in medical school. And I find this hard to believe at Tulane, I believe, because he was from Jessup, uh, Louisiana. And I saw him on the floor. They were having sex. So I screamed. And he, I guess, put on his pants and he came out and he was hitting me. And she came out in defense and said, "Don't you hit her." I don't remember anything after then much except he drugged me to the car and he had to put my feet in because they were stiff. I couldn't move them. And somehow I ended up in the dark up there at Terrell Mill. These are places everybody in Atlanta would know, where Warren and Rosina Matthews, the forensic psychiatrists, were shot and killed. And this was mind control in it, and I was telling about it. And one of the subjects in it, witnesses, the only girl in it that was in the shooting of the Warren and Rosina Matthews, uh, um, had been hypnotized. So they tried to say that her. Here's the deal in this. I don't know if it's changed, but a lot of people, if they ever have been hypnotized, they can't give testimony. It's not credible. They're not credible, which is a joke, because in this, so many people have had mind control used on them. They don't, how would they know it? They don't know it. So they can testify. So this is one big joke, sick joke. It's a war game. It's a friggin' war game that's brought in the Illuminati and they're in control. So I'm sitting here trying to tell all this, so how long do I last? And do I get my children back and they're alive and well with what's been done to them? So much for good friends, your allies. Oh, wow. What a sick joke. What a April Fool joke. Oh, I can hear somebody coming on here that hasn't seen the rest of it and could care less and say, "Who's this crazy lady up here talking?" Oh, I'm telling the truth. And I hope one day soon it's told. Anyway, back to okay, I got the Noe up there, and I had seen him. Remember the picture of him being with John back in 1962 in Brown Engineering. So this is an 84, 85. Now I've got the hustler car sitting back here. Can't drive it because I'm pumping gas trying to get the money to pay the rent. And they did furnish me a little trailer camping trailer, a Terry. So you get into high powered that put this together to keep me alive. And I've also been tortured in it very much, me and the kids. Unbelievable. So Terry ends up to be the person that I trusted so much I met here, and I'm not going to say any more about him, get him in trouble. I haven't seen him in a long time now. But anyway, where am I? What's wrong with this picture? This lady's here pumping gas. She ran in a political campaign. She wrote a book. Whether they want to know about the book or what happened to it, and me being almost killed, it's what's wrong with this picture? She's ran in a political campaign, a nationwide one. So what's Hustler Car sitting here, and she's pumping gas and living in this little camper and working 7 days a week, and I go up and cook for them, which I didn't mind. I was glad I had the place to live. And so anyway, where am I going now? I guess what I was trying to say is, what's wrong with that picture? Somebody should have thought something. Nobody wanted to get involved. It was just like Noe said. They wouldn't, I was a outsider. Maybe not until they found out, I found out I was from the UK and what had happened, and I tried telling it, all of this, and then people would get, I didn't want to hear it. So, now where am I going with this? Back to the Gonzalez thing. He moved from Redstone Arsenal. He was out there. And I met him at the health spa. You get into Cosmopolitan, opened up there in Huntsville back in 64, I believe. And the girl that was sitting down from Nashville that opened it, and it was where it was separate, the women and men, the days were. And her name was Victoria. Well, they're inserting what I'm going to find out later about my real name is Victoria II. I'm heir to the British Crown. So she didn't stay long. She was sitting down when it opened, and they hired me then. And he meant to hire. He was meant to be. And I remember Gonzalez came in there. And I remember he didn't speak his English was okay, but you could really had a little trouble hearing him. And he controlled his wife. Bless her heart, she just had a baby. He brings her in there and he follows her around while I'm giving her instructions. I think they signed up for a 90-day. She did. And he had the gall, this man did, to ask me to find her a hairstylist that he wanted her to have her hair like mine. I did not know him. And I knew he had been in Huntsville. And then I found out later he had been at Parkland when John Kennedy, of course at that time I wouldn't have thought much about it had I known, when John Kennedy was shot. So he comes in and he wants me he's going to bring his wife back. He came with her. He later was diagnosed, I was told by Dr. Kenneth Dunn Reagan, who got run out of town, I think. That's why he left, because he did the right thing, and he tried to, and they run him out of town. He said that Gonzalez was a psychopath, and that my husband was a psychopath, and that Lina Dempsey, where they put me, that killed her twins, was a psychopath. His words were, I've never seen one person with 3 psychopaths that rule their life, or control them. I forgot his exact words, were in contact with me. And God knows I tried to tell what Victor Gonzalez had done to some other people. He killed a couple other people. I went to the state medical board in Atlanta when I was doing the book and had the letter from the FBI. You know what they did? They took it and laughed. I went back later in the shape I was in 82, and they had lost the FBI letter, they said, and grinned at me. And I was told that Victor Gonzalez was under investigation way back then. So what's he being turned loose on people for? And children. One of these girls was 12 years old. So now then, where am I? I see him on the floor with Kathy, and he pulls his pants up real quick, I guess, because he came out after me. I ran out the door. And then I don't know what happened. Kathy came out and said, "Don't you hit her." And because I was screaming. And I know he had to stick my feet up in the car, so I don't know what he did to me, but I ended up being up in Cheryl Mill, and it was a dead end, and the houses were new. That's where Warren and Rosina Matthews. It's going to go out again. Well, maybe not. Were killed. They knew how deaths were made to look as natural cause, and that's what mind control is. I want to mention this real quick. Later, when I ran in the campaign and was flown out to Larry Flint's, I worked through Hawkins. Remember, I didn't have jobs in between then. It was very hard for me, and I was just literally from April Fool's Day of 80 when they almost killed me. I did work for the district attorney, and then he didn't run. That's when John Lennon was killed, and he didn't run. Really, they were laughing in... they didn't mean for him to win. He was good, though. Fred Simpson was. He's one of the few because that town is controlled by the Illuminati and the Freemasons, the space industry, the global government. So they have used me, Great Britain, my father, to tear down the British governments, what they did. And Werner von Braun they brought over, and they call him names. Are you getting who's really behind all this? Now then, back to Gonzales. I end up out there, and it's night, so I remember driving, and it was hazy. I didn't know where I was going. I was trying to get home. I didn't know how to get home. And they took me out and raped me and were going to kill me. One of them was black, and one of them was, three of them. One of them later I worked for. At the time, I didn't remember because he was younger. That was in 72, and I worked for Tiki Fences. It was a fancy, I was staying at home in Westgate, so this would have been 73, and I put an ad in the paper for, I do books, like part-time. Well, he called me, so he was supposed to call me. Then you get into other connections, like I won't even try to tell it right now. I really won't. Links in this. But he was the one that I found out now he wasn't really Smokey Stover, the country western singer. I looked him up, and they don't even look anything alike. It wasn't him, yet he had Elvis all over the wall, his gospel and everything, and he had all these pictures, and he was connected with the FBI. But I don't know, I just bought his story. Why would I think he's lying with all this stuff? So anyway, he's the one that saved me from getting killed. He was one of them. And I remember they were going to kill me after they'd done this, and I had ripped my clothes and run through the bushes trying to get away from them. And they said, well, Gonzales will kill you. He says, well, something about I'll deal with him. Well, that's when the car drove up and had its headlights on their car and sit there for a few minutes and got their license plate. Well, that scared them. So I managed to get in my car and back out. And that car drove off, though, but they let me go then because they were afraid of the license and what would happen. So it's not that much. A couple of weeks later, something that I was drugged, had Rohypnol. I guess that's what it was. I couldn't move, and that's when Gonzales, and I'm not going to get into trying to tell all the details in this. I went back there to his office, and it was vague. They really worked me over. I sit there, and he handed me a cup of coffee, and that's the last thing I knew. I knew, but I couldn't move. He took me in the car, took me across to College Park, and the trolley tracks. It's where all the trolleys came to, and it was a small, I know I'm telling this again, but it was a small clinic. It was still there in 82, excuse me, in December of 82, the tracks and this clinic. And so anybody could go back and check out most any of this. They really could. And especially the part about Henry Kissinger and the tapes, and this part of it, and the connection to the 18.5 minute gap in the tapes is where Kissinger was ordering me, and he was in Nixon's office. And this gets involved with the secretary for Nixon. He was ordering me, the Queen of England, to be lobotomized. And that's why they were subpoenaed, and that's why they had the gap. And when I worked for Fred Simpson in 80, after they tried to kill me again, April Fool Day, and I ended up back in Huntsville, they role-played the Watergate, the 18.5 minute gap. And I remember clearly what happened. I was lying on the table, and I'm going to say it again. I looked at the hallway now I'm this way. Okay, I'm on the table. My head would be back this way, though. Gonzalez was standing over me here, and I couldn't move. I knew what was going on, and the doctor, he had the mask on too, was behind me, and he had a phone there. And they were talking, and I thought, I saw 6, and they were in their gowns and scrubs. So I was trying to think, well, if I could just get their attention and get them to help me. Well, no, they were there to help kill me, is what they were there, lobotomize me. So the phone is in there that's going on, but they're waiting on the call to come through to say if they lobotomize me or if the Brits or my family came through with money to save my life. So they did. And I don't remember, Gonzalez must have stuffed me in his car, and I hadn't thought about this part of it. What happened to me then? I don't know. I guess maybe I was taken back to my car. I don't remember what happened then. I hadn't thought about that part. Anyway, that's what's on the Watergate tapes in the 18-minute gap. And he's head of the Illuminati now. And he's Jewish. And I'm not allowed to say anything about a Jew. But I want to say one other thing here before I get off this video. They should reopen the Watergate tape commission. And let me tell it. What's on the tape, and tell this in order where somebody's not attacking me and calling me names, and let me tell it and see where they stand. Of course, it would take another year out of my life of hell in telling it, but I think this country should see what they've done. So help me God, if it takes God to do it. They all talk about God. How does Elizabeth walk into church? How does any of these people walk into church and bow before God with all the lies and blood on their hand? And what they did to my babies, the Jews did it. Al Platt. I didn't know why. They were trying to do. They hurt them anyway. So anyway, that's what's on the Watergate